So here we are on a beautiful terrace in Styria, a Buschenshank, enjoying a glass of wine and reflecting on 2 days of judging for the IWSC, the third year that we've done this. And Junior, you've been in charge of judging, overseeing it each of those years. So your perceptions on what you've tasted?
I think going back to the 3 years, David, the perception hasn't changed very much. Because the quality of Austrian wine, the consistency has been there for 3 years. What I've noticed from year 1, year 2, and this year has been a slight variation in terms of what we're tasting. So the first year, there was a lot of focus on red wine from Burgenland. And this year was then went to second year were more Gruner and Rieslings. And this year, obviously, we have a little bit of everything, but real focus on Sauvignon Blanc. And that's what I noticed. And the quality has been extraordinary.
And a high number of gold medals. This is an incredibly tough competition, toughest in the world. What's made a gold medal for you here?
I think before speaking about gold, I think it's, as you said, this is a very tough competition. We all know that. Getting a silver medal here is probably a gold in other competitions. And one thing is, the number of silver medals, it's absolutely incredible this year. But going back to your question, what makes a wine win a gold medal? It's just something that you would just drink and share with your friends. Something that if you go to a party, if you go to a friend's house, or you go with your family, you're very proudly bring that bottle of wine and share with them. And we found many of those wine here during those 2 days of tasting.
Freddy, you've been buying Austria for quite a few years now. I know it's a part of the portfolio of the Wine Society that you quite jealously guard because you love buying Austrian wine. You were judging here when we first did it a couple of years ago. What are your perceptions?
I think to just agree with Junior, my perceptions actually were very, very high when I judged it a couple of years ago. Equally high this time. I've actually been really quite pleasantly surprised at some of the Sauvignon Blancs that we judged. And that was something that we didn't do much of last time. So it was really nice to see that there's another string in the Austrian bow. Of course, Grüne Veltliner, the white grape of Austria. Fantastic to see so many excellent entries this year. So that was always a joy when you find a fantastic Grüne Veltliner, isn't it? But yeah, I think it's more that my eyes have been open to what Sauvignon Blanc can do in the right hands, in the right place here, yeah.
What about you, Emma? You're here for the third year. You've been buying Austria, I think, that long for Waitrose. What are your perceptions?
Yeah, likewise. The quality has been consistently high across the 3 years, and then that just continues to improve. There's certainly a sense that the wines are improving as well. So the feedback that we're giving, I think people are listening to that and learning from that. We're seeing some sort of different styles of winemaking come through, which is great. We had a couple of rosés this year, which particularly impressed me and surprised me actually, because I don't think I've been so impressed in previous years with rosés. It's certainly not winning silver medals, but for us, that's been great. To Freddy, it's Styrian Sauvignon, as it's just a really refreshing surprise and really enjoyable. The quality continued to be really high and improve, and it's great to see that people are, adapting winemaking style and they seem to be backed.
And as you say, Junior, more Sauvignon Blanc this year, for sure, than we've had before. We're in Styria, so unsurprising, but great stuff.
What didn't surprise me, as I said, was a quality and consistent throughout the whole 2 days. But what was refreshing, it wasn't surprising, but it was just an affirmation that Sauvignon Blanc really can be great. Great if you can compare with Sauvignon Blanc from anywhere you like. And the quality, stylistically, they can be quite different, but the quality is incredibly high. That was just an affirmation, not a surprise.
Just to add to that as well, I mean, it's worth pointing out that as part of my buying portfolio, I also buy the wines from New Zealand. And of course, New Zealand is famous with Sauvignon Blanc. So I have to admit, I came on this trip a little bit skeptical, perhaps. I've heard about Sauvignon Blancs from Styria. I'd heard about, this was a grape that they were particularly proud of here. But I was a little bit skeptical. I thought, New Zealand has kind of got it covered. Otherwise, you've got Tops Sancerre, let's say, from the Loire. And I've been really pleasantly surprised at the quality, but also the unique personality that the very best examples show. And that's not to say it's across the board. You know, I've tasted some wines that I haven't enjoyed so much, but those that I've loved are totally unique and delicious.
Yeah. And yet, at the moment, you don't list Styrian Sauvignon Blanc in the portfolio of the Wine Society. Are you tempted now?
Definitely after this trip, it's been very eye-opening. It's a very good point, and you're absolutely right to mention that. That's really been a decision based probably on the commercial side of wine buying. You know, it's one thing to think about the quality of the wines and styles that you like drinking and that are very interesting, but another side of buying is thinking, okay, what's actually going to work commercially? And New Zealand, of course, really dominates the market for Sauvignon Blanc in the UK. Certainly the entry level, the more premium level, people are very familiar with the top Sauvignon Blanc from the Loire. And when you're competing at a premium price point against a category that consumers already feel they understand far better, very, very hard to get in on that market. Mm-hmm. And I just honestly didn't really understand what it was that made Sauvignon Blanc from Styria different, what made it unique. No one had ever previously summed it up to me in the same snappy way you can sum up New Zealand or Loire Sauvignon. But now, having been on this trip, tasted a few great examples, I feel like I've got a much better understanding, and it's easier for me then to relay that to customers too.
I think one thing to talk about Sauvignon Blanc, apart from that, people who know Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand and the wines from here, they have a real brightness of fruit, real intensity in terms of what you have in the glass. But then if you just look up at the vineyards, they're incredibly stick and difficult to work. So just the utter respect for the winemakers working in Styria.
Yeah. So Emma, you sell oceans of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. What's the challenge for Styria? What do they need to do?
I think to Freddy's point, that the grape variety is something that UK consumer loves, feels they know, feels they understand, and they think they know what they're going to expect from the wines that they buy. So you're introducing a completely different style, and I think that's a strength, but also a challenge. A strength in that Styria can offer something completely unique, actually, in terms of the flavor profile of Sauvignon, and you know, even within Styria, the styles are different if you go from the west to the east to the south. So I think there's a real strength there, but the challenge, to answer your question, is the commercial side of it. You have some really stiff competition at all price point, entry right the way through. But also I think it's how do you explain on a very small label, on a shelf edge ticker, or on a website concisely why a consumer should part with their money to buy that. And I think if that can be nailed, be that with the marketing support or a really eye-catching label to try and divert the consumer's eye to something else, then I think that could be really successful.
Or winemakers working together. It's not going to be you or you, but it will be the combination of businesses. But the winemakers have to work together, because I'm convinced that people who taste a gold medal that we selected, there are quite a few. Yeah, they will not be disappointed. They will go back to that bottle.
Yeah.
Mm. And Freddy, what's the advantage for you in judging of in situ here?
It's a really great way to just feel like you're immersing yourself a little bit more. You know, I think being able to focus on so many, in this case, Austrian wines over 2 days, as we have done, you really get your head into the game. You've sort of set a benchmark that you can keep consistent for 2 days, which is fantastic. I think we feel probably as judges, like each of us personally want to give every single one of these wines the best chance that they possibly got. And let's sit and discuss them. You know, there's an element of us having been invited into someone else's home, let's say, and we want to be very respectful of that, of course.
And we've been judging together, Emma. It's total immersion, isn't it?
It is, and that's important, because you are giving each wine your full attention and just removing any distractions and having context as well, I think is helpful. You need 12 wines at similar style or from the same region means that you can really accurately and fairly assess each wine and go back. And the debate, the conversation between judges, I think you use every wine really does get their chance at time, which is important.
Final question for each of you. Junior first. Wine is in a tricky place at the moment globally. The UK market is tough. What does Austria need to do in our market in the UK?
I think working together, first and foremost, doing things together, the growers themselves, also with businesses, and keep doing events and get people to I think break out from their Gruner and Riesling.
Yeah,
There are so many amazing wines with this. There's rosé. There's diversity within Austria. So there is the consumer will not be disappointed, but there's a lot of work to do, and it's not gonna happen tomorrow. Like this, they have to work together.
I think to your point, it's important to demonstrate that Austria has far more to it than Gruner and Riesling. But I think it's really important to maintain focus as well. If you want to try and gain traction in another market, having a really clear message is so important. And Sauvignon Blanc is a whole nother section of Austria's wine offering, which is, as we've seen, very, very high quality, or can be very, very high quality. What I would like to see, to Junior's point, is that being demonstrated, but in a really clear way. Don't overcomplicate the message, and get behind the style that you really believe in as a group of producers.
Emma?
Yeah, and I completely agree with your points. But what we have found is actually when you get a customer or consumer to try Austrian wine, 9 times out of 10, they absolutely love it and they're hooked and they're converted. So it's about how can you, if you're in a situation, for example, where you can't compete on price, let's say, then how can you get liquid on lips? Because when people try it, they're hooked, and be that with collaborative working, marketing support, tastings, engagements, anything where you can get Joe Public who love wine but maybe haven't tried Austrian wine or have only tried Brunner and maybe think that that's all Austria can do. Anything around education and encouraging trial, that will be
Yeah, and there are so many stories finally to tell, aren't there, Freddy? You're really good at doing it through direct communication with the members of the Wine Society. You talk about the people that you meet, that passion that's there in Austria and these small-scale wineries very often, normally actually, and family wineries. You're doing it. They need to do a lot more of that, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, there's no better way for me to tell a story than when it's a story that I've experienced firsthand as well. And that's another benefit of traveling, spending time here in Austria. I'm always going to feel that I have a better understanding, learning that way, and then it's easier for me to relay that. But it really does help me, going back to our previous point, when the sort of, let's say, the marketing organizations here who are responsible for each region, and also groups of producers, when they give me a clear story and a clear message, it only helps to relay that in an even more clear, even more concise way.
Great advice. Thank you, Freddy, Junior, Emma. Some really sage words. So good luck to Austria, and here's to what we've been judging.
Cheers. Okay.